Hola, espero que estén bien. I'm going to talk to you a bit about how to use direct and indirect object pronouns together in a sentence. Part of how we're going to do that is to really understand what is a direct object and what is an indirect object when we're using these. The biggest things to remember, and the things that I have done that have helped me the most, is an indirect object is something that is not directly related to the action that's happening. The direct object is what has the action happening to it, so it's directly affected by that action, thus the terms direct and indirect. The subject is going to be who does the action. So that can sometimes be confusing as well. So whoever does the action is not associated as an indirect or direct object in this, unless it's reflexive, but that's a whole nother story. So basically, I have a sentence here, escribo una carta a mi abuelo. So what we want to look at, and what I usually try to identify first, is the direct object. What is having the action happen to it? In this case, what's being written? That will be our direct object. So for here, our direct object is going to be, that's really thick, una carta. So that's going to be the direct object. I'm just going to put a D underneath that. Please note, oops, I see how I can make that smaller. There we go. So let's actually go back, apologize. All right, now let's do it. So a D is una carta, that's the direct object. The indirect object is who would be receiving kind of this direct object. So who receives the letter? Mi abuelo receives the letter. So the abuelo is our indirect object. So these objects are existing in this sentence. But if we want to shorten it down and use the pronouns, so instead of saying, I write a letter to my grandfather, coming later in a conversation, I write it to him. I write it to him. Okay, so here's the him and the it. So those means that I'm going to be using the le or say, and I'll talk about when we use say, or lo or la. So if we remember id or ID, that we have to identify which is which, and the I becomes before the D when we're using pronouns. We ID them first, identify them, and we put the indirect object pronoun before the direct object pronoun. So to rewrite this, I'm going to just write down the verb first. Hopefully this will work here. Oops. So I'm going to make some space. Actually, whoops, I can make this larger this way. There we go. And I'm going to just write down escribo. So before escribo, though, I'm going to have two object pronouns. The first one will be the indirect object pronoun. So we identified up here that mi abuelo is the indirect object. So I need to come over to my charts, which I hope that you are writing down into your notes, and identify which of these comes first. So here's the indirect object pronouns in the far left. Mi abuelo, will it be me, te, le, nos, os, or les? Well, I want to say him, so it's going to be the le. So this will be replaced with le for right now. The direct object is una carta, that's what's written. Therefore, I need to come over under direct and think of the it. Well, it is going to be lo or la. Which will it be? Well, to know which is which with lo or la, the direct object's gender matters. So una carta is feminine. Therefore, it's replaced with la. Okay, so far I've ended up with le, la, escribo. Problem is, in Spanish, we never have the l together. So we're not going to stick with le, la. We have to change the first one, the le, to a se. So that and all we're doing is getting rid of the l sound. So it becomes se la escribo. Now, instead of stating out, escribo una carta a mi abuelo, I write a letter to my grandfather, I now say, I write it for him, or to him. I write it to him. Se lo la escribo. So remember, first identify what is the object pronoun that you want to use, that's being used in your sentence, or in the sentence that you are being given. And then make sure that you are identifying and the correct pronoun. Put the I, the indirect, before the direct. Okay. I hope that this is helpful. I want to keep this short, so I'm going to stop here. Any questions that you have, please contact me. Hasta luego.